blessings that exist, the small things that are bliss, the gift to realize that everything is a gift.
What a cool song. Wow.
Yeah, I thought so. Because I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all the beautiful people that are here tonight, and I'm grateful for you, Dan. Grateful for many things. So welcome, beautiful people, to tonight's breathwork session. It's beautiful to have you here, all of you on the call, and whilst people are still landing in the Zoom room, I'm just going to take a short moment to introduce Dan. I'm really not going to say terribly much because you can read all about him and connect with him on his website, breathmastery.com. But what I really want to say about Dan is that he is a pioneer in breathwork, of breathwork. He is a master of breathwork. He is a breathwork guru. He's been my breathwork guruji for the last 15 years. I'm so grateful to have been and to continue to be in your flight path, Dan. And Dan really has been a lifelong student of the breath, literally traveling the world for 5+ decades and learning and teaching everything there is, literally to experience about the breath and to experience with your breath. Dan is truly a devotee of the breath. He is devoted. He is in devotion. And that is, for me, always been so deeply moving and touching. A real dedication to sharing the power of the breath, literally wherever he finds himself, and also with whomever shows up to participate. So, yeah, and the fantastic thing is that in November, Dan is heading to Cape Town, South Africa, for a whole breath week. We've put together an incredible schedule of 4 unique events over 7 days. And the opportunity of the week is really essentially an invitation into a deeper embodiment, greater awareness, and a blissful expansion. So whether you're new to breathwork or you're advanced in your practice, this breath week is going to be a deep diving immersion. It's going to offer you profound tools for your evolution, for awakening, for healing, and then also for sharing, for taking out into your living, loving life and sharing with everybody that you touch. And so we just want to chat for a moment before I hand over to Dan, and he's going to lead us into a deeply delicious breathwork session this evening. Just want to chat through the offerings that we have coming up in South Africa. So we're kicking off Breath Week on Thursday, the 19th of November, with a 5-hour session at a gorgeous venue in Hout Bay called Valley Shala. And our first session is clearing birth trauma and infancy issues. And I want you to just say 1 or 2 things about our session, Dan.
Yeah. You know, in those first few moments of life, the very first impressions about being in a body, being in a world, they're deeply impressed on us. And it sets us up for patterns that we repeat and replay our whole lives. And we wonder why we keep attracting certain things and certain issues keep repeating. And it's because those first few impressions of life are deeply ingrained in us, and every thought we've ever had is built on top of those original impressions. And so that's where the modern breathwork world was focused on. It's gone a long way since Leonard Orr, but the original purpose, the original focus of breathwork was to get to those first deepest programs that we took on at birth and infancy in the first few years of life, because everything else was built on those things. And it's like this domino game where you find that first domino, you knock it over, and brrr, they all fall. And it's such a quicker path than trying to work our way back to the source of our suffering in so many areas of our life. And so it was the original shortcut. Let's just get to the basic root of all of our issues, which comes from our earliest experiences.
Awesome. So that's a super powerful session to start off with. And then on the following evening, Friday, the 20th of November, we have what we call like a taster session, a dip and a sip. And we've titled it Repatterning the Mind Body System. It's an incredible opportunity to gather together in a big group at Erin Hall in Rondebosch for a 3-hour breathe. Do you want to say something about that, Danji?
Yeah, we're creatures of habit. We have habits of thinking, we have habits of feeling, we have emotional habits, we have behavioral habits. And when we're not 100% consciously aware, those habits are the ones that drive us. They cause us to see what we see and block us from seeing other things. They're the reasons for our reactions. Our mind-body system has taken on habits and patterns that literally rule us. And before you have time to think, those habits have already clicked in. And so I began looking at breath work about 20 years ago as a way to repattern the mind-body system, to install new impressions, new habits, new patterns that serve us instead of get in our way. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's another fantastic opportunity. And then we have a weekend workshop on the Saturday and Sunday, 21 and 22 November, which is going to be like a spirit quest. We're going to breathe as a rite of passage.
Yeah, now this will be the first. Because for a long time I have looked at rites of passage I've been to 77, 78 countries right now. And in ancient cultures, indigenous cultures, there was an ancient tradition of something like a vision quest where a certain person, they reach a certain age and they set off into the forest or the jungle or the desert until they get their message about who they are and why they're here and what their message is and what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. And in the Western cultures, that's not built in. It's sort of subtly applied here and there in sort of vague ways, but there's no tradition in the Western culture for something equivalent to that. And rather than a vision quest, I just felt like the quest is about spirit, getting in touch with your natural spirit and the universal spirit, and finding out what spirit has for you and what is your relationship to spirit and what's your mission in relation to spirit. And so I'm psyched about that because it's totally new. Although I've dreamt about it and played with it, and I've kind of applied breath work to myself in that way, this will be the first time that we kind of use breath work for that specific focus. So I'm psyched about what's possible in that time. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Sounds like we're going to have a real deep dive there. I know we're going to have a real deep dive there.
Yeah.
And then we're completing the week with a 3-day skills training. And we've chosen a beautiful studio and guest house in Somerset West, which is right in the winelands of Cape Town, for the 3-day skills training. Dan, do you want to say a little bit about the skills training? Because it's not only for professionals, it's also for all humans who want to fast track their evolution.
Oh yeah, total newbies and also seasoned pros. Because concepts get you nowhere. Training gets you everywhere. And every day we're training whether we realize it or not. If you get upset every day about the news, about starvation in the world, about politics, about your finances, about your neighbor's dog barking, you're training in becoming upset. And if you practice something every day, I mean, every day, many people have a reason to get upset. Children laughing outside their door, dogs barking, traffic, you name it. And some people get upset a dozen times a day. And that's serious training. And they get so good at becoming upset that anything can upset them. Even things that ought to give them pleasure upset them. And so we need to do a different kind of training. And so this is a skills training in putting into practice the concepts and the theory and the information and the knowledge. And if you can apply it to yourself, you can share it with someone else. And so if you're already in the healing or helping profession, or you're just working on your own personal growth, and training is everything. When you don't have time to think, it's your training that kicks in. So these 3 days are about arming people, equipping people with real skills that they can use everyday life and start to create habits and patterns in their life that really serve them. So it's serious training in up-leveling yourself and advancing yourself along your own personal growth, your professional practice, and your own personal evolution. We have an obligation to the planet to evolve ourselves, to liberate ourselves, and to create inner peace so that there's a possibility for world peace. And so that's what these skill training is about. It's where the rubber meets the road, and putting into practice the things that really work, and closing the gap between knowing we ought to do something and actually taking action and doing it. So,
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So come and breathe with us in Cape Town, because we're going to dive really deep so that we can fly really high. And it's going to be cutting edge. It's going to be powerful, because Dan doesn't so much teach growth as he transmits evolution. And the way that Dan shares the breath is really more transmutational than transformational. So honestly, being in Dan's flight path for the past 15 years or so has been possibly the greatest gift in my life. And the opportunity to be in his slipstream here in South Africa is one to be jumped at. So we really hope that you'll come and breathe with us.
yeah.
So Danji, I'm going to hand over to you to take us into a delicious breathe.
Okay. So, greetings from India. I'm in Vrindavan at the moment, Vrindavan, the home of Krishna consciousness. The ISKCON temple is about a 5-minute walk from the MVT guest house where I'm at. I'm in a beautiful air-conditioned room at the moment, and nice and quiet here at the ashram. And the Hare Krishnas are really into food, so the restaurant here is just fantastic. And we're also dealing with real, literally life and death experiences. We had a really shocking beginning to this India adventure. Our driver, I hire a driver. He's with us for a month. He takes us around. We have the same driver, the same van, for a whole month. And my travel agent, a guy I've known for 25 years or more, Sonny, he takes care of all my needs here in India. He finds the drivers, he arranges them. And when we were leaving Delhi, in the first 5 minutes, I shook the guy's hand, and it was like limp and soft. And I thought, gee, like what was that? And then he was sort of partially absent, and I couldn't like connect to him. And he was sitting in his driver's seat while our people were bringing their bags out, and the drivers always help with the bags, loading the bags into the van, and I had to literally push him, and I'm going, what is it? And I almost he wanted to argue with me about putting a bag in the van, and we're off to a really bad start. And I got so triggered, I called up my Sonny and I said, there's no way I can spend a month with this guy. His attitude has to just flip right now, or we're not going to make it. And he said, well, give him a day or two, and I'll talk to him. And then so we ended up taking off, and And he stopped a couple of times along the road, and I don't know. And so I called up Sonny. I said, I got a bad feeling here. This is not starting off right. And he said, well, I can arrange a new driver. I can get a new van to you. So why don't you, let's talk in a couple of days. And if you still feel the same way, then we'll switch it off. Well, when we got to Vrindavan, I woke up the next morning, early in the morning, 4:30. Someone woke me and said, your drivers, they're having a problem. And I went out to the van, and the guy had been vomiting blood all over the van and all over the street. My God, this guy needs an ambulance. Why are you calling me? Call an ambulance. And it literally took more than an hour before the ambulance came. And he was non-responsive. He was groaning. His eyes were kind of open, but they weren't focused on anything. And I have nothing. I mean, what can I do? I just held his hand and I stroked his head and waited till the ambulance came. And then I had to force the policeman to help me lift him and put him into the ambulance. And I said, oh my God. And anyway, finally, he went off to the hospital. And this morning, I woke up to the news that the man had passed away yesterday. And what a strange way to begin a celebration. But someone very quickly from the ashram told me, the Indian people believe that if you leave your body in Vrindavan, that you achieve moksha, liberation, and that you experience samsara, you get off the wheel of birth and death. And so it's actually a blessing to leave your body in Vrindavan. So there's that positive sort of spin to it.
Amazing.
But I felt so sad that I was impatient with him, that I thought he was just stubborn or whatever. And when we went through his backpack to find
Haven't we?
his ID card, he had a big bottle of liquor. He'd been self-medicating. So I met his son and heard from his mother. And it got me thinking, oh my God, how we show up in life. We were the last people. He spent his last day on this planet with our group. And how did we make that day for him? And it really gave me pause to really be conscious about how we show up every day, all the time, even in little things. Because, oh my God, we just never know. And so that's the current news. But it gives us all a chance to practice. It gives us all a chance to shift. It gives us all a chance to repattern. And what we want to do for the next hour is focus on the three things that I've identified that help the most, that move the needle, that allow us to get the biggest bang for our buck, right? And breath work, the modern breath work world is Kriya Yoga, right? So, 1 second. We want to look at breath work as Kriya Yoga because that's what it is. It's a modern form of Kriya Yoga. And Kriya, the term refers to any action that we take in the direction of our liberation, our self-realization, our enlightenment. Any action you take in the direction of your liberation is called a Kriya. So there's all kinds of forms and styles and traditions in the Kriya Yoga world. But when you look at what the essence of it means, then breath work is pure, modern, Western Kriya Yoga that's based on ancient Eastern and Taoist and Chinese and indigenous practices, shamanic practices, Sufi practices, Buddhist practices, Hindu practices, even mystic Christian practices that go back centuries and centuries. And it's no coincidence that the spirit of the breath has been reawakened in our generation, in our time, because things are accelerating. You might notice that things are accelerating they're going at quantum speed. I mean, artificial intelligence and stem cells and nanotechnology. And I mean, there's just this rush, this explosion of things that are going to shift the world in a huge way. And we're moving toward some kind of a point. And from that point, things are going to go ballistic in good ways and in bad ways. And so look at the amount of news and information that we're bombarded with, and you don't know who's true, who's right, who's wrong, who's telling you the truth, who's just screwing with your head, and who do you believe, and who's right, and which is the proper thing. It's like, if we don't have some kind of an internal anchor, a connection to our own higher intelligence, we're going to get pushed and pulled by every charlatan, by every well-meaning but misguided teacher. And so it's more important than ever that we connect to our own spirit, our own higher self, our own inner wisdom. And the breath is the key to awakening to that. And the breath applied or in a certain way. Because 50 years ago, I dreamed that breathwork would become mainstream. And it'd be taught in public schools, and doctors would be, prescribing it and recommending it. And people going, oh, you're crazy, woo-woo, new age breathing stuff. It's never going to get to that level. But it has. But in order to become a mainstream thing, some of the really pure, fiery, essential parts had to be left out, had to be watered down in order to make it palatable to the masses. And so with all the progress in breathwork, and it's unarguable, the science, wearable technologies, everything we've learned about neurochemicals that are produced by different breathing patterns, brainwave states that are altered and shifted by breathing, regions of the brain that get turned off and turned on by certain breathing techniques. All the science is finally proving what the yogis and the Taoists and the ancient mystics and warriors intuitively discovered. So that's cause for real celebration. On the other hand, the deepest mystical aspects of the breath, the spiritual aspects of the breath, the things you can't duplicate in a laboratory, are being left out just because of that, because they're not yet scientifically verifiable, and maybe they never will be. In the same way that love, we all know that love is real, but go ahead and try to define it and try to isolate in a laboratory. I dare you. And so we know that the most beautiful, essential parts of being human, they're not measurable. They're not, you can't repeat them in a laboratory. There's a creative factor that we all have. And it's the consciousness factor. So that's where we want to begin. There are three, I call it my formula for transformation. I arrived at my formula for transformation right here in India back in 1980. On my very first trip to India, very clearly, the three ingredients in my formula for transformation were given to me, revealed, downloaded. I figured them out, or however you want to look at it. Awareness, the consciousness factor. And the message is wake up. There are things about ourselves that we are asleep to, oblivious of. There's an invisible world out there that we haven't connected to and we know nothing about. There are dimensions of our own being that we've never awakened to, that we can't even imagine. And so that first ingredient is really important. We need to become more conscious. We need to become more aware. We need to wake up to our potential, to the fullness of life and reality, and otherwise we'll never, and most people are born, they live, they die, and they never really awaken to who they really were. And they never really learned what life was really about, or even why they were on this planet. And and it's my mission to make sure that as few of those people, that it happens to as few people as possible. Because the more we turn people onto the breath, the source of the breath is the source of our body, the source of our mind. It's the source of everything. The breath is a thread, and if you follow it, it's going to lead you to your source. So we need to wake up, become more conscious. The second is we need to learn how to relax. We need to learn to let go. You cannot move forward if you insist on holding on to your current point of view. If you can't let go of negative or limiting thoughts or old habits and beliefs or grudges or resentment or limited ideas about yourself, then there's no possibility for you to move forward. We have to learn how to let go. And so the breath turns out to be the perfect tool to help us to let go. Let go of tension, let go of pain, let go of narrow, limited thinking, let go of the past, and ultimately let go of who you think you are so that you can discover who you really are. And the third ingredient is breathing. So that's the energy factor. And the message is take charge. We have to become responsible for our own liberation. We have to be in the game of self-liberation. And we need energy for that. So the formula in a nutshell is awareness, it's the consciousness factor, and the message is wake up. Relaxation, it's the release factor, and the message is let go. And breathing is the energy factor, and the message is take charge. And so this is a back to basics, and I'm finding that the more we need to advance in our particular field, the more we need to keep coming back to the basics. Look at the greatest musicians in the world. They practice the scales before they perform. They go literally right back to the basic scales. That should tell us something, right? And so it's the same thing in the breathing world. We need to return to the basics. And the deeper you dig into the basics, the further you can go, the higher you'll get. So that's what this next hour is about. It's about returning to the basics. And I'm going to do that right now live. I haven't prepared anything, and I want to do it myself. I'm my first student. I practice what I preach while I'm preaching it. And so welcome to my sermon on the breath. So what I want you to do is we're going to use the breath to become more aware. And lately I've been calling it non-local consciousness. It's just the easiest way for me to understand it and how I've been experiencing it. And it's how I want you to experience it in relationship to the breath. So let's get right into the practice. I want you to close your eyes and just take a couple of breaths to really settle in. You must have been busy with something before I was. And there's something waiting for you when we get done, and something waiting for me. And if we could take a few breaths, and the mantra is open and expand, that creates a space. Push the past further off into the past, push the future further off into the future, and clear a nice space in the present moment to do some real good inner work. So take a few breaths to just settle into your body, settle into the present moment, and just use a sigh of relief. There's no special breathing technique to accomplish this, except an exaggerated inhale and an exaggerated exhale. And just do that a couple of times. Open and expand. Relax and let go. Right? And now I want you to close your eyes. We're going to stop by breathing through your nose. And I want you to bring all your attention, all your energy to the tip of your nose. Let the whole world disappear. Nothing exists in your reality except the sensations of the breath as it comes and goes. And you've planted your attention at the tip of the nose, and you're looking for details. When the air comes in, it causes feelings and sensations right there at the tip of your nose. And when the air goes out, Notice the sensations at the tip of your nose. It's meditative awareness. You're looking for details. And you might notice that the air is a little cooler coming in and a little warmer going out. What other details can you tune into? Under every feeling is another feeling. Behind every feeling is a more subtle feeling. And so keep doing that work of feeling more deeply, more closely, more intimately, using the actual sensations, moment-to-moment sensations caused by the breath. Tip of the nose. Don't think about it, just experience them directly. I call that the first touch point, the first place in our body where we can touch upon the experience of breathing. The second touch point is further into your nasal passages. So I want you to bring your attention deeper into your nose. Let's call it the bridge of the nose. Plant your attention deeper into the nose, around the bridge of the nose, deeper into your nasal passage, and sense the breath from there. There's new sensations that didn't occur at the tip of the nose. The next touch point is your sinuses and your skull. So bring your attention to your sinuses and your skull. You know, most people, they don't even notice their sinuses until your sinuses are stuffed up, until and then they demand your attention. Well, maybe if you give your sinuses attention, they don't have to get stuffed up to get your attention. So let's be proactive. What sensations can you tune into if you focus your attention on your sinuses and your skull and tune into the breathing? Here you might encounter the light phenomenon associated with the breath, because we're not just breathing air. There's something in the air, prana, chi, life force energy, spirit. And that occurs in the form of light, sparkles. So maybe you might encounter the first light phenomenon associated with your breathing. That deeper level of breath, the more subtle energy in the breath that expresses as electrical sparks and light. The next touch point is your throat. Bring your attention to your throat and sense the air as it passes up and down, in and out through your throat. Now you could play with your throat and create this ujjayi breath. It's a yogic technique, right? Where you create a little constriction in your throat and it causes this internal noise. It's like just this side of snoring, right? That's an ancient pranayama technique. And that stimulates the vagus nerve. And now there's fantastic science showing why for 3,000 years yogis have been practicing this ujjayi breath. It has genuine benefits that you can measure in the nervous system. It activates the vagus nerve, the biggest nerve in the body. So now I want you to create a little loop of awareness and a little wheel of breath. Tip of the nose, bridge of the nose, sinuses and skull, throat. Back around, tip of the nose, bridge of the nose, sinuses and skull and throat. A little wheel of awareness, a little wheel of breath. We've got 4 touch points, and see if you can keep them all alive. Sensing the breath from each of those touch points. Tip of the nose, bridge of the nose, sinuses and skull and throat. Which one is more dominant? Which ones do you have to bring up, raise your awareness of in order to include them, right? And now let's leave that wheel and come down into the apex of your lungs, under your collarbones, and the way in the upper chest. And you might even put your fingers over your collarbones and breathe in and out quickly to loosen up those spaces. Make them accessible to the breath. Make them available. Soften them. Make them supple. A lot of early feelings, infant emotions live here. That's why people get anxious when they breathe high in their chest. And they think, oh, that's why high chest breathing is bad for you. No, it's because you've got some subconscious memories that have been suppressed. And as soon as you breathe up in those spaces, you start activating those unconscious memories, and it feels icky. And people use that as a reason why, oh, breathing high in the chest is bad. Yeah. Think again, okay? It should be comfortable. It should be easy. It should be open and soft and available to the breath. And it's even playful. Okay, so that's the next touch point. The top of the chest under the collarbones. And right before we go further, I want you to play with your yawning reflex. Just make yourself yawn right now. Activate the yawn. Fake a yawn till a real yawn happens. And then breathe in and out while you're yawning. It's silly, I know, but it's powerful. Activate the yawning reflex, trigger the yawning reflex, and give yourself big sighs of relief and spin the breath like a wheel while you're yawning. And now notice your energy after just a minute of breathing and yawning. There's something clear, there's something cool, there's already something percolating, there's something humming, there's a swirling, there's a buzzing, there's a streaming. We're awakening energy, right? Now come down into your heart space, the next touch point. Now, as soon as you focus in the center of your chest, you should have a natural urge to take a big breath. Because literally, we start at the tip of the nose, little tiny channels, bridge of the nose, sinuses and skull. You went through a bottleneck, literally, and now the breath has a chance to really expand, and it wants to. And so feel that urge. As soon as you focus your breathing and tune into your breathing in the center of the chest, you should have a natural urge to take a big breath, because the breath itself is celebrating that space. Help it. Celebrate that space with it. Expand side to side, front to back, top to bottom, centered in your heart. Every breath is full and rich and expansive. And it's 360 degrees, right? Remember, half of your lungs are in your back. Don't just puff your chest out when you breathe. Roll your shoulder blades forward. This pulls your shoulder blades away from the spine, and it opens up your back. It's the opposite of the military posture, where you throw your shoulders back and you puff your chest out and you look tough. Well, when you throw your shoulders back, you pinch your shoulder blades together, which totally closes off your back, and there's no room for expansion. But when you roll your shoulders forward, you pull the shoulder blades away from the spine, and now you can feel some expansion in your back. Another touch point for breathing. The next touch point is the lower ribs, and specifically the side-to-side expansion. And you might put your hands over your lower ribs on your side, and when you breathe in, feel your hands being pushed apart, side to side. Create that side-to-side expansion. It's what Belissa Vranich calls horizontal breathing. Wake that up. Get a sense of that. The side-to-side expansion and relaxing that happens with every inhale and every exhale. The next touch point is your upper abdomen, and here you can get into touch directly with the movement of your diaphragm, the upper abdomen. The next touch point is your lower belly. And the final touch point in the breathing cavity, let's say, is the floor of your pelvis. You want the inhale to be like a spear piercing the floor of your pelvis. You want to create a bulge in your perineum when you inhale, and then pull up on your perineum with the exhale. Right? So now look at all these touch points. Tip of the nose, bridge of the nose, sinuses and skull, throat, under the collarbones, center of the chest, in the back, lower ribs, upper abdomen, in your belly, in your lower belly, floor of the pelvis. And see if you can tune into the breath from all those places, non-local awareness of the breath, tracking the breath from all these touch points, because the breath is going there. And so you might even begin to deliberately send the breath to every cell of your body. Because we're only talking about tracking the physical level of breathing. And on the physical level of breathing, we have 3 touch points. I mean, we have 3 levels. Getting the air from the lungs into the world and the world into the lungs. That's huffing and puffing. But if that's all that you're doing, you couldn't live. That's not enough. Getting a lot of air, filling up your lungs and full inhales and full exhales, that's required, that's necessary, it's important, but it ain't anywhere near enough to even live and be alive. The second level of physical breathing is the exchange of air, let's just call it air, between the lungs and the blood. And that's why diaphragmatic breathing is so healthy, because when you breathe down low into your belly, into those lower lobes of the lungs, they're the parts of your lungs that are most richly infused with blood vessels. And so breathing down into the lower aspects of your lungs, now you're in contact with these millions of blood vessels that now the exchange where the blood, the air exchanges from the lungs to the blood. That's the second level, but that's not enough. If you get one of those pulse oximeters, the red infrared things that people measure your oxygen level, most people's blood is saturated with oxygen, 98%. And so that's not enough. The real level, the physiological, genuine respiration takes place on the cellular level. And so you want to consciously be sending the breath to every cell in your body because it's already going there. Take part in your nature. And here's a really cool thing. Every time you fill your lungs with air, you flood them with blood. The action of the diaphragm and the pressure in the lungs draws the blood from your extremities into your core. It's happening with every breath you take. Every time you fill your lungs with air, they are being flooded with blood. And every time you exhale, the action of the diaphragm and the pressure in the chest that changes push that blood back out to the extremities. This can be felt. Every one of you listening right now, if you meditate and you take deep breaths and you relax, you can feel that phenomenon. It's not difficult to tune into, especially if you're already good at tuning into your heartbeat. We're talking about awareness, remember? Expanding our awareness. So right now, let's focus on the heartbeat. Can you feel your heartbeat in your chest? Just tune in. You might have to get very quiet. Some people even have to pause their breath to tune in and find the heartbeat in the chest. Some people get worried when they feel their heart beating in their chest. Like, don't be worried. That's such a beautiful organism working for you. Be grateful that it's pumping. So if you can tune into your heart pumping, the pulse, your heartbeat in your chest. And if you've gotten that far, then I want you to focus up here. You know, we have the carotid artery just under your ear on the side of your neck. I mean, you can put your fingers and feel your pulse, but I want you to see if you can feel that pulse on the side of your neck. That's one of the most powerful pulses that we have in our body. And that's, you can be able to feel that. Feel your heartbeat from this place under your ear on the side of your neck. And then you can feel your heartbeat in your lips, in your face, in your fingertips. And you ought to be able to tune into your heartbeat from anywhere in the body, because every beat of your heart sends a palpable wave, a pulse through your entire body. That can be felt. And when you start developing the ability to tune into these things, your awareness is expanding and you're going to be able to tune into even finer and finer things. Okay, so we've handled the awareness piece. And now we want to move into the relaxation piece. And again, the breath is the greatest tool, instrument for producing relaxation that we have at hand, right? So the relaxation on the exhale begins at the very top of the exhale, which means you've got to take in a big full inhale. So now you're at the top of the inhale and you're at the top of the exhale. And take in a couple of extra little sips to really top yourself off, and then snap the exhale loose. Don't let it out slowly. Don't control it. Snap it loose. Dump it out. Set it free. Let it go. And if you do that, all of that breath should flow out of you in 1 or 2 seconds. The ideal scenario would be sticking a pin in a balloon and you release all the breath in an instant. We can't do that. The closest we can come is releasing all the air in 1 or 2 seconds. And that means your whole body has to release at the moment that you release the exhale. Your chest has to release. Your jaw has to release. Your throat has to release. Your spine has to release. Your belly has to release. So every time you snap the exhale loose, take in a deep breath and snap the exhale loose. Set it free quickly and completely. Get good at that, because that's the power point. That's the initial point where you trigger relaxation. And so we have to trigger the relaxation. And you do that by snapping your exhale loose, dumping your exhale out. And if you fill up your chest, when you snap your exhale loose, your chest releases simultaneously. If there's any lag, like I'll demonstrate it if you want to watch at the moment. See if I can demonstrate it so you can see it. Right. A second. So I fill up my chest. I let the exhale go. And then my chest releases. So the breath releases, but I was holding my chest. We need to bring those things together. Release the breath, release your chest. And an ah shape on the exhale, that's the biggest opening you can make. It's bigger than ooh, it's bigger than e, it's certainly bigger than your nostrils. So you exhale out your mouth, which creates an ah shape, and that gives the breath the biggest possible opening so the most air can release in the shortest time. That's the first step in using our breath for relaxation. Practice it, practice it, practice it, and practice it. You think you're good at it now, you can get much better at it, because the letting go becomes total. Pretty soon you're not just letting go of your jaw, which you have to do. You're not just letting go of your neck and shoulders. You're not just letting go of your chest muscles and your back muscles. You're letting go totally. And then you can start letting go of other things, like fear, like pain, like tension, like anxiety, like depression, like the past, like your sense of self. And so you can take this ability to let go to some very deep levels. And very quickly you can touch places that used to be only the great saints and the mystics and the gurus and the yogis could accomplish after years of practice. And with a very short time of practice, snapping your exhale loose, you can get moments where you touch the infinite, where you touch the unlimited. It's just a flash. And you might even begin to see a flash of light in that moment, a burst of light when you release all the breath in an instant. The next step in relaxation is after that 2 seconds, or 1.5, 2 seconds, when the air comes out, there's a transition point where you continue to exhale, but exhale mentally, where you continue to relax. You deepen the relaxation. Think about it as falling inward, as dropping down, as leaving the surface and falling into your depth, as leaving the circumference and dropping down towards your center. That's the journey with the exhale. It's a dropping down, a falling inward. And after the air stops coming out, you triggered it, and the air stops coming out. Keep exhaling mentally. Keep exhaling energetically. Continue the relaxation that you triggered when you snap the exhale loose. More air might leak out naturally. As you relax, the body's going to release more air. That's not the main point, but that's a nice little extra side effect. And at the bottom of the exhale, you're going to land in this silent, still, spacious place. I want you to think of relaxation not as a state, but as a space, as spaciousness. And it's waiting at the bottom of the exhale. And I want you to linger there for a few moments and see if you can relax into that space and you feel yourself expand into that space. And then at some point, you're going to feel the urge to breathe in. And so then when that happens, you take another deep breath, you fill yourself up completely, and you make the journey again. You snap it loose, the air stops coming out, keep exhaling mentally, continue the relaxation you triggered, keep dropping down, keep falling inward until you land at the bottom of the exhale in the still, silent space of pure being. No thought, no goal, no work, no effort, nothing. Just a moment or two of pure being in that space. And here's the next skill. You need to learn how to inhale without producing new tension. See, when you take in a deep breath, when I take in a deep breath, I use a lot of muscles. And if you want to really top it off, you have to work even harder to get those last couple of sips to top it off. But all that muscular activity is the opposite of relaxation. And so if you produce tension with the inhale, even though you're good at letting go of the exhale, the only tension you will release was the tension you just produced on the inhale. Wave, do something to tell me if any of this is making any fucking sense to you. Thank you. So then the game is, how do I inhale without producing new tension so that then, and I achieve this fullness, and then I trigger the relaxation, and now because I haven't produced new tension, that next sigh of relief is going to take my relaxation deeper. So that's the next skill. How do you take a big, deep, full breath, and in the beginning, just go for as little effort as possible, as little muscular activity as possible, and hopefully none. And one way of doing that is to don't think about pulling the breath in so much as making space. So if all my breathing passages are open and I do a meditation on making space in my chest, you're going to feel the air pouring in. Whatever space you create, the breath will fill that space, and you don't have to pull it in. You make space. So inhaling becomes this practice of making space. Now you're not pulling breath in and using muscles and creating tension. And I have to tell you, I've been doing this for 50 years, and honestly, it's only in the last few years that I really mastered it. So you might need to practice for days or weeks or months. I don't think you'll have to practice for years because now it's been identified as a practice. And so now you've got something to go for, to aim for. I discovered it when I was looking back. I didn't have it as a goal moving forward. Now you have it as a goal moving forward. Now here, I'm calling it the final skill. There's another one beyond, but this is as far as I've gotten, or at least as much as I can talk about. So you've learned the skill of snapping the exhale loose and letting go completely. Letting go of all your muscles, all your joints, your thoughts, your feelings, your resentment, your memory, your past, everything. It's a total let go. Boom, and you snap it loose at the top of the exhale. And now you've learned to make that transition from when the air stops coming out, and then you continue the relaxation that deepens and deepens, and you drop down and you fall inward. And when you fall into your center, it's a space. It's an infinite space. And then you've learned, or at least you know you need to learn how to take in a big, deep, full breath without producing any tension. And then the next skill, this final skill, is how do you inhale in a way that not only doesn't produce new tension, but actually deepens your relaxation. I can't tell you how to do that. I'm learning to do it myself. I'm getting really damn good at it, but I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to talk about it yet. But maybe if you discover it, maybe you'll be able to describe it and help me out with the words, right? So the last skill, or the next skill, is learning how to inhale, not only without producing new tension, but actually in a way that takes the relaxation that you triggered in the exhale, that you deepened with the exhale, and it carries over into the inhale, and the inhale achieves that it helps the relaxation. It increases, expands the relaxation, deepens the relaxation. I have one image that's helped me. Louise and I went on our honeymoon, and like we didn't go on a real honeymoon when we got married. So when I joined the Navy, I was stationed in Great Lakes. We went to Chicago for like a honeymoon. And we went to the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum. And the main exhibit in the main hall at the time, this was 1970, was this giant faucet that seemed to be floating in the air, and water was pouring out of this faucet into a pool. Well, the illusion was there was a glass tube, and water was being pumped up this glass tube, and the water was cascading down around this glass tube. So it gave this illusion of this big stream of water pouring down out of this faucet. And a few years ago, when I was using my childlike imagination and playing with my breath, I remembered that image, and I thought, this is perfect. Because hidden is this upward flow of water, and all we're seeing is the cascading down of the water. The cascading down represented relaxation, and the upward flow of the water was my inhale. And so that little image helped me to kind of hack in. So when we breathe, energy is rising up from within us. Air is coming from outside of us. But the spirit of the breath, the prana, the chi, the ki, the kundalini, the energy, the shakti, the life force, it's rising up from someplace deep inside of us. And so the inhale becomes a game of creating an upward flowing river that comes out the top of your head like a fountain. I call it the fountain breath. And that water recycles back down into the pool, where you're standing in that pool of water, and that same journey takes place. So with every breath, you're drawing energy, breath, up through your body, through the soles of your feet, up through your legs, up through your body, out the top of your head like a fountain. We call it the fountain breath. And now you're inviting that upward flow of energy. And that's effortless, because when you poke a hole in a dam, water pours out. When you touch that place deep inside of you, that's the source of the breath, it's a geyser. It's like when they hit oil, and this oil and pours out of the earth, and you can't even cap it. And so something's going to happen, and you're going to feel it. And the breath, the power of the breath itself will do the inhale for you. And then all you need to do is cooperate with it, participate in it, ride it, help it, join the club, get in the game. Okay, so that's the game of relaxation. And now the third part is about breathing. And anyone familiar with alternate nostril breathing? Wave, raise your hand. What's it called? Nadi, Shadana. There's a yogi name for it. Anyway, you can put it in the chat if you like. Nidra. Anyway, there's a name for that. Alternate nostril breathing. Very ancient practice. Really good practice. I suggest everybody practice alternate nostril breathing. It's beautiful. It's powerful. Right nostril's connected to the left brain. Left nostril's connected to the right brain. Left nostril's connected to the sun, and it's yin. It's hot. And the right is connected to the moon and cool. And it's a universal connection. And the stars and the planets are part of this phenomenon, all coming down to these two channels, Ida and Pingala, and there's a central channel, there's Sushumna channel, right? And if you want to read up on all this stuff, right? And when that central channel opens, that's when people have moksha, samadhi, satori, kensho, enlightenment, that awakening and the full flow of kundalini through the system, right? There's a lot of talk about kundalini casualties, people who accidentally stumbled over it or forced their way to it, and they weren't ready to handle it, and they end up in psychiatric hospitals, or they fry their circuits, or they're imbalanced because they pushed themselves to something they weren't ready for. But if you use relaxation to get there, it's 100% safe. You got there by relaxing, not by forcing, not by egoic struggle, not by spiritual ego effort. You got there by relaxation, the safest way to encounter the deepest parts of us. Right? So now we're into the breathing. Now, and I can use this alternate nostril exercise as a way. Most people would just go right into that practice. But I suggest that you first wake up a lot of energy so you have something to work with. So you're not just doing alternate nostril breathing. You're actually, you've generated enough energy with your breath that you can take this practice to the level it was meant to be practiced at. It's not about breathing air. It's about what in the Hebrew is this neshemet ruach, this breath within the breath. It's the prana in the air, and that's what these yogic practices are meant to do. They're not about huffing and puffing and moving a lot of air. That's useful and it helps in the process, but it's really about breathing energy. And my favorite breathing teacher, Leonard Orr, described it perfectly. He said, the art that we are trying to learn and master is the merging of the outer breath, which is air, and merging that with the inner breath, which is spirit. That's the original focus of rebirthing. The merging of the outer breath, which is air, and merging with the inner breath, which is spirit, so that every time you breathe, you have got a handle on your spirit, on the prana, the chi, the ki, the life force energy. And you're not just moving a lot of air, you're beginning to move energy. And that's healing energy, and it's creative energy. And it's also very scary and dangerous because it's sexual energy. And take it from somebody who's learned the fucking hard way. how this energy can burn your house down, right? It'll keep you warm, but you get too close to it and you're going to get scalded, right? And if you let it get out of control, it's going to burn your whole goddamn life down. So I've done that the hard way several times. I've crashed and burned. Not everybody needs to learn things the hard way, but looking at my past, it seemed to be that's how I learned. It took big bang crash events for me to shake me awake to what was actually happening. So, but maybe you can take a gentler, softer path, right? If you apply these three principles that I just shared with you. So let's get into the breathing principle. And this is not rocket science. It's hyperventilation, okay? Let's make hyperventilation great again, okay? There's nothing wrong with hyperventilation. Hyperventilation means overbreathing. But overbreathing is defined by the body's chemical needs. Is anybody here think that all you are is a physical body? Raise your hand if you think you're something more than just a physical freaking machine. Of course. So our body is not the only part of us that lives off the breath. And so we can't let the needs and the chemistry and the structures of the body dominate our breathing practice, because more of me is outside and around my body than in it, than as it. And so a little chemical imbalance, temporary, is a small price to pay for a lifetime of liberation. And so, hell yeah, when you hyperventilate, you're going to send your chemistry out of whack. So what? So what? You get good at coming back quickly. It's about resilience. It's not about worrying about getting your system out of balance. It's getting good at coming back into balance when you're throwing your system out of balance. And if you don't volunteer to throw your system out of balance, then you're not going to have any practice at bringing it back into balance if life throws you off. Is any of this making sense to anybody? Give me a hell yes, raise your hand, I don't know, something. Because it's tough online. When I'm with people, I'm picking up vibes and energy. It's a little tougher when I just see little faces and little screens across my computer. Thank you for the truth. Thank you. Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, so what I want you to do right now is hyperventilate. Let's just be honest, okay? I could say breathe fast and full and breathe deep and go. Just fucking hyperventilate. It's okay. Temporary hyperventilation. You know what Leonard Orr said about hyperventilation? He said it's the spirit of breath purging blockages and negativity from our body. And we become afraid of the symptoms, and so we don't hyperventilate. But what if hyperventilation is spiritual purification? Take that in for a couple of minutes, and maybe that'll motivate you to make hyperventilation okay. And the feelings of hyperventilation are actually quite interesting. You're buzzing, you're tingling, your hands get in weird positions. You get a mask on your face, you feel these bands of tension. All that is very interesting. They're feelings, sensations. They happen. Don't be afraid of them. Invite them, embrace them, celebrate them. All right, so here we go. Here's just breathe in and out. Ooh on the inhale, ah on the exhale. We want to go for at least a minute. Now, if you need to stop, stop. If you get really uncomfortable, or you get afraid, I'm not making you do this. You're volunteering. Just go for it. Just really go for it. Imagine yourself if you were running up a hill. If you were running up a hill right now, full speed, how would you be breathing? You wouldn't even have to make yourself breathe because the demand for energy was so big. I can see Emmanuel breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathe in and out the mouth, in and out the mouth. Right? If you were running up a hill, you'd be breathing in and out your mouth. If you were running up full speed up a steep hill, you'd be breathing in and out, big breaths, and you'd be hyperventilating. But you wouldn't produce the symptoms of hyperventilation because the muscles would eat up all the energy. However, when you breathe deep, fast, and full, and you're completely relaxed, since your body doesn't need that energy, it complains. It goes, wow, why are you overloading me? I don't need this energy. I'm not doing anything. I'm not running. I'm not jumping. Stop it. Stop it. But if you relax while you breathe in a deep and powerful way, since the body doesn't need that energy, the muscles don't need that energy is going to do some other work. It's going to do healing work. It's going to do emotional work. It's going to do psychological work. It's going to do energetic work. It's going to do spiritual work. So keep going. Breathe deep, breathe fast. Breathe deep, breathe fast. Breathe through your mouth. Until you get dizzy. Dizziness is a very superficial feeling. Lean back in your chair and let yourself get as dizzy as you want. No harm done, right? You might start getting a dry throat. That's just a feeling. Keep breathing. You might start, your mind might start getting in the way. Oh, this is not bad. Everybody knows that hyperventilation is bad and nose breathing is good. And you let all that mental bullshit get in your way, then you're not going to get anywhere. So just let all that shit happen. Let your mind say what it wants to say. Whatever feelings want to come up in the body, let them come up. Whatever wants to happen in the body, let it happen. Okay, you've been going for a good minute and a half. I want you to just, those of you, some of you have stopped, Some of you have eased off. That's perfectly okay. I don't fault you on it. Hey, I see Catherine in Paris. Mwah. Bonjour, bonsoir, Catherine. Okay, so some people have stopped. That's okay. If you're still going, congratulations. You passed the threshold. So now ease off on your breathing. Don't hold your breath. Don't stop your breathing. Just make it gentle and tune into the energy in your body. Feel the buzzing, feel the tingling, feel the electrical sensations, feel the streaming, feel the swirling. This is life force energy moving. It's limited in how it moves by our structures, but with practice, the body-mind system and the structures are going to open to more energy. At first they resist. It's like overloading the system. You have to gently and gradually train your system to receive more energy. That's why rebirthing breath work is done over a series of 10 or 20 sessions. It's not a one-time deal because you're moving through layers of your personality. You're gradually repatterning the mind-body system. You're gradually and gently training your system to accept more energy, receive more energy, contain more energy. And that takes practice and training. So you should feel buzzing and tingling and sparkling, and I want you to deliberately enjoy it. Deliberately celebrate it. Deliberately be grateful that you can feel anything is a miracle. That even the fact that you can feel discomfort is a cause for celebration because you can feel. What a miracle that you can feel anything. So be grateful for all your feelings. Be grateful that you can feel anything. And now I want you to just breathe in a way that gives you pleasure. I want you to create the most enjoyable breath. How deep, how fast, what's the quality? I want you to just create pleasure for yourself with your breath. Invent the most interesting, enjoyable breathing pattern. The most pleasurable breathing pattern. What's the quality of that breath? Where does that breath go? What moves when you take that breath? Where are you noticing it? And what exactly does it feel like when you give yourself a deliberate, enjoyable breath? And now I want you to train yourself to the next step. I want you to breathe in a way that you love yourself. How can you love yourself with your breath? How can you breathe in a way to extend love to yourself? To say yes to yourself. Every inhale is a certain kind of a yes. It's an active yes. Every exhale is a yes, but a different kind of a yes. It's an allowing. It's an enjoying. Ooh, the lights just went out. I might lose my internet, and it might come back on. Let's hope. I'm in India. Oh, the lights are back on. Maybe I lost you. I don't know. But so what I was saying? Oh, good. Love yourself with every breath. You deserve to experience your own love and compassion. We were taught that it's selfish to love ourselves. You're supposed to love everybody else. And you're selfish and if you love yourself. Wash that out of your system with your breath. You can't love anyone else if you don't love yourself. And how did that quality change? When you were taking a breath for the pleasure of it, and I asked you, where does it go? How does it feel? Where is it? I don't know. And then you were taking a breath to love yourself. What changed? How is that breath slightly different? What additional something quality came into it? And I want you to do experiments with freedom. I want you to imagine that you are utterly free. How would a person who was completely free breathe? I want you to invent that breath right now. Give yourself a breath of freedom. Somebody watching you breathe would just go, wow, that person is so free. Holy cow, right? Invent a breath of freedom. There's no such thing waiting to learn. It's something you create. It's something you invent. A breath of freedom. A breath that says, I am free. Do the same thing with the breath of joy. If you were the most joyful person on the planet, you would breathe differently than the average person. What would be the quality of your breath if it was impressed and influenced by tremendous joy? I want you to invent a breath of joy right now. And try to invent an even more joyful breath. And notice what wants to happen on your expression of your face and what wants to happen in your body and how does that breath express itself? How is it unique in some way? Breath work is about being creative. It's about connecting to the creative principle that we all were born with and connected to. How about a breath of peace? If you were the most profoundly peaceful person on the planet, wouldn't you breathe differently than somebody who is upset or angry or afraid or nervous? Of course you would. And you know what else you know? You know exactly what a breath of peace looks like, feels like, sounds like, is shaped like. So I want you to just deliver it to yourself right now. Take your time, put your whole heart, mind, body, soul into it, and I want you to generate a breath of peace. The inhale is peaceful. The exhale produces peace. And do it a few times. And make each one a little better than the last one. Each breath expressing a little more peace. And exaggerate it. I want you to be a Shakespearean actor. When you are practicing these breaths, I want you to imagine yourself as a Shakespearean actor. You have no words in the play. You come center stage and you demonstrate a breath that makes the whole audience go, oh, I wish I felt that good. It has to be physical, visible, audible. And people sense it, they see it, they feel it. And more important, your own nervous system feels it. Your own body, it registers. Your psyche, your soul, your heart. So this is breath work, folks. It's about being creative. It's about being total. Thank you to Shakti Milan, Totality Therapy. When I met Shakti Milan and she lit me up with her certainty about the power of totality, no one has ever invented, created, discovered anything really great without being total, without passion, without enthusiasm. And that totality. You can't invest 10% of your energy, 50% of your energy. You're going to get lukewarm results. You're going to get everyday normal results. But if you can be total, you're going to produce something extraordinary. That totality, there's no substitute for it. And if you can't be total with your breath, you can't be total in a relationship. You can't be total in a job or an artwork or project. I mean, think about that mad scientist who locks themselves in their laboratory and he doesn't go out and have blah, blah conversations on the street. He forgets to eat. He forgets to sleep. He's freaking possessed. Or the artist who locks herself in her studio and doesn't sleep and doesn't eat, who's something's coming through her and she's got to get it out on canvas or sculpt it into something. It's compelling. It's an obsession. That's the greatest artists, the greatest inventors were fucking obsessed. And if you want to achieve anything significant in your life, you better be obsessed about it. You better be passionate about it. You better have enthusiasm and you better be total. Because you're not going to achieve anything without that principle of totality. Thank you, Shakti Milan, for just really reminding me and putting me on this and making sure ever since I could not be unconscious in that woman's presence. One of the greatest gifts of my life was meeting Shakti Milan and making love to her. I'll say it in public. I don't care. Right? And I never met anybody who was so total. And she just threw everything, her whole self into what she did, and and that's contagious. And I want to bless her for that. So I
Yeah.
think we're coming up to our time here, and maybe
Yeah.
we can open it up. I'm just trying to give you guys a little taster. If you really, breath work isn't something you can learn on an Instagram post, um, or something you can pick up in an hour. But I hope you'll be motivated and inspired to really dig deep and just see what it holds for you. How much is possible for you if you if you pour yourself into a spiritual practice. And I chose breathing originally because I was a lazy bastard. I didn't want some serious, difficult discipline. I wanted something easy. And so breath was like so easy. Uh, and as it turned out to be the most difficult, challenging, deep thing there was. So, duh, so much for plans. So I'm convinced, and that's why I call what I'm doing breath mastery, because you cannot master the breath without mastering your body, your mind, and your emotions. And you can't master your body, your mind, and your emotions without mastering your breath. So I hope you join the club. I hope you get in the game. I hope and you don't have to study with me. Study with anybody who's teaching breathing. Get your foot in the game. You just start anywhere and see where it takes you. I'm a missionary for the breath. I'm not just in for my shit. Whoever turns you on, practice with them, study with them, whatever school or technique or exercise or path of breath that you've heard about, go for it. See where it takes you, and then see where you can go from there. Okay, Rianne, I don't have an
Thank you,
off button, so you
Danji.
better shut me up.
Thank you, Danji. There's so many things that I'm grateful to Shakti for, but one of them is for bringing you into my life. And I'm so grateful to you for traveling all over the world. Dan coming to South Africa is such a gift. You know, our currency is crap. It is so bad against the dollar, the pound, the euro. And Dan says yes to South African prices, making it so affordable for those of us who live and earn in rands. And also for those of you who are traveling, South Africa is a phenomenal place. Dan, would you say you've been here many times? It's
Oh,
such a cutting edge melting pot of
I love it. It's got all
polarities.
the
And
extremes. The contrast is just extraordinary, you know? And so it's a ripe area. And I want to thank you, and I want to acknowledge you, and I want to acknowledge myself, because I'm getting paid more for teaching breathing than I ever have in my life. In the last few events, I got paid more to talk for an hour than I was making in a week. And so I love it. And so that allows me to like give it away and to make it accessible to everybody, because it all balances out in the end. And so the more I'm receiving, the more I'm willing to give. And I think that's our nature. I don't have to make myself do that. I'm not trying to be a spiritual guy. It's just how it fucking works. If you're experiencing abundance, then you can afford to be generous, right? So let's have an abundance of life,
so come and
and see
breathe with
where that
us in
takes
South
us.
Africa. We want you to come. So thank you for being with us this evening. It's been awesome.
Oh, my
Hope you're
pleasure.
feeling
It's
as
almost
live
midnight.
alive as I am.
It's almost
Wow,
midnight,
Danji,
and
that's late.
my horse is going to turn into a pumpkin, and so happy to
Mwah.
spend this time with you after a long and beautiful day, and a nice way to end my day doing what I love, sharing the magic of the
Hmm.
breath. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
All right.
Love
Thank you guys
you.
for showing up.
Thank you, beautiful people.
Yay.
Thank you all.